Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
Top career coach Sandra Rupp was placed on the Thinkers 50 Guru radar list for the top business thinkers. She was a managing director in the executive search industry and is now an executive coach who helps people on career navigation in the 21st century. Sandra has been interviewed by a Wall Street Journal reporter, published on Financial Times website, and quoted by Forbes. Look for her new DVD video on demand on Amazon.com called Career Navigation's 7 Steps to Success. She also coaches people by phone or on a video call. I want to welcome to my show Sandra Rupp.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you today, Susan. Thank you for having me. I am an executive coach, and I specialize in career navigation. So I help people either who are working in business as an executive or might be in a career transition, and that could include even people who are considering becoming entrepreneurs or making major career changes in their life. So I work with a lot of interesting people, and my work ranges from helping people on career-related issues to also leadership, how to be a better leader. One of my themes is the yin and yang of leadership, so I believe that men and women can make a really great team, and I talk about the different styles of leadership. And I also really enjoy working with creative entrepreneurs. So I do a variety of things, but I'm known in the career space because prior to becoming an executive coach and a career coach, I actually worked in executive search for 18 years. Based in New York, I now live in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I worked with people in a variety of industries, placing them into jobs, typically known as a headhunter. So I worked with a lot of different, very talented people, and I've taken that experience base to turn it into how to coach people in a career navigation in the 21st century.
Sandra, for many years there were people who did that sort of work, but I have a feeling that it's changed a lot because the whole business field, entrepreneurial things have grown, or maybe they have not. And I want you to tell our audience what's going on with regard to jobs, because the presidents, all the presidents, candidates, I mean, Trump and Clinton have spoken about that. So what's your take on it?
Yes, it's a very important point. So navigating your career now is a lot different than it was, say, 10 or 20 years ago. So back in 1980, I believe about 20% of Americans worked for Fortune 500 companies. It's actually a pretty high percentage. It's now down to like maybe 5 or 10%. So what we're finding is there are a lot more people who are either taking an entrepreneurial path, starting their own company, creating their own business. I've even seen people take a hobby and create a business out of that. Mm-hmm. And then the other trends I'm seeing is there are people who are becoming freelancers, consulting to maybe big company or mid-sized companies in a specific area of expertise, but they are solopreneurs. They're, one-person companies or management consultants, if you will, but around a specific area of expertise. It could be marketing or finance or what have you.
Now, some of the questions I probably figure your clients might want to ask is, what would you have, and I'm talking about you now, what would you have wanted to learn from a mentor that you would feel accelerated your success? Tell me what you think. Put yourself in the other shoe, if you will, and tell me, what would you have wanted, to learn?
At what stage of career? What do you mean?
Okay, so somebody is getting out of college. Let's start with a young person. Okay, they're getting out of college. So I wonder, what would have you wanted to learn from a mentor that you would have accelerated your success?
That's a very good question. Actually, one of the first things that I say to young people today is you want to take some assessment tests to figure out, A, what your personality type is, what your interests are, what you really enjoy doing, because you're going to have a career for a very long time, and you may make several changes in your career, but it always helps to do something that you're good at and also that fits your personality type. So the first thing I would say is take the Myers Briggs test. It's a very well-known test. You can take it online, and it's really helpful to understand if you're more introverted or extroverted. Are you intuitive or sensing? Are you thinking or feeling? Are you perceiving or judging? Once you know your Myers-Briggs, you have a lot more information, and there's actually a wonderful book called Do What You Are. You can buy it on Amazon, and it's a great first step for someone who's a younger person or even in mid-career to really look at some career options. The other recommendation would be to take a test at assessment.com. It's called the MAP test, M-A-P-P. And again, this can be done either early career or mid-career. And it gives you a lot of really interesting insights into what motivates you and what careers might be a fit for your interests. Yeah. And then the third thing I would say is, ask yourself, what did you enjoy doing as a young child even? Because some of those things may be helpful in terms of figuring out where your path is going to take you.
It's a very interesting thing. Sandra, there are a lot of people who think that they have a great idea, and they invest a lot of money in it. And suddenly they find out that they really didn't come up with the idea. I mean, it's been around. There are very few ideas that are really new. I mean, everybody has competition in their field. So what do you say to your client when they come in and they say, okay, I want to do business, and you look at them and you say to them, well, there are a lot of businesses outside. Yes. So how do you separate businesses?
Well, what you have to do is you have to do some market research. So no matter what your interests are, you have to also understand the marketplace and industry sectors. Okay, so let's say you're a marketing person and you want to work in marketing, and you used to work for a bank. Well, banks may have cut back. In the financial services industry, there was a lot of cutback in various departments. Right. So rather than, say you're going to do something, you have to also look out into the marketplace in an industry and see if that industry is growing. And fortunately, with the power of the Internet, you can do a lot of really great research online. So if you want to launch a business in a sector, I would say, talk to people that know people that are doing that same type of thing, and do some research and do some homework and see if that industry is growing. And also look at the competition and see if it's something that you think that you could have an impact on. Do you have a different strategy that might be better, or different qualifications that might make you better at that specific industry? Certainly it can come down to timing. If you look at marketing, there are the traditional 4 Ps of product, pricing, distribution, packaging. I mean, now with the power of the Internet, you can also sell a lot of things online. So it's opened up a lot of markets. So when people start a company, a new company, let's say a small company, and they're selling a product or service, I always say to them, don't just think about your geographical market as the community that you live in. Think of it as a global market, because you could be selling this all across the country in the United States as well as to other parts of the world. Yeah.
Now, all leaders should feel a connection with their coach or mentor. Don't you agree?
Yes. It definitely helps to have a coach that you click with in terms of style, because there are different styles of any kind of coaching, whether it be executive coaching, career coaching, or even life coaching.
So I don't mean to offend you in any way, but I just want to know, why would somebody choose you?
Probably because first of all, my client base tends to be people who have been executives in companies. So a lot of them have MBAs and have worked in the corporate world, but they may be going through a transition where they're either looking to get another position in the corporate world, and I can advise them on executive search firms and how to market themselves on LinkedIn and how to do all those types of things, create a brand on social media. But the other reason might be is that they want to work with me because I've actually launched an entrepreneurial business myself, doing videos and now selling them on Amazon.com. And so being able to think outside the box and brainstorm with someone who may be going through a career transition, may have worked in the corporate world and is now looking to do something different. It could be an encore career. Have you heard of that?
No, tell us about that.
So an encore career is something that people do maybe in their late 40s, 50s, maybe even into their 60s. So they have had more of a traditional corporate career perhaps, and now they are looking to do something very different because at some point they may not be able to find another job in the corporate world. And one of the things that I mention to people in my DVD, which will also soon be available as a video on demand, but you can find it on Amazon, it's called Career Navigation, 7 Steps to Success. I'm really excited about it.
Sounds great.
Because I just launched it this year, and it took a while to put together, but it's like, writing a book, so it's very exciting to have out there. But one of the things that I mention is to first off, create an elevator pitch for yourself. When you're networking with friends and family, let's say, if you're going through some kind of transition career-wise, come up with 3 things that you're looking for, not just one. And the reason I say that is because I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is saying that they're going to try and find a job just like the one they had before. And as you very importantly mentioned earlier on, the career space is so different now. So lots of times an industry sector will go away. So you can't do that same job. So what you need to do is to be more broad in terms of your message to your network. And a lot of jobs are found through networking. So you want to have 3 things that you could do. One might be the job you had before. The second one might be related, but in a lot of different industries, so you might want to market that. And then the third one could be related to a hobby that you have and something that you might be able to monetize. I've seen people monetize hobbies into a 6-figure income.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Could you tell us a little bit, or tell my audience a little bit about that person, no names, but just, how it happened?
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. One, it's a couple of interesting stories. One would be a woman who was designing rugs for her home, okay? And she enjoyed creative work, and she contacted a company in Asia, sent them a picture online of a rug design that she had actually created herself. She had that rug sent to her in her dining room. She then decided to do another one for her living room and another one for her kitchen. And an interior decorator came over to her home and saw these rugs and said, wow, those are really great. I would like to order some rugs from you and have you design them for my client base. And it led to a whole new job. This was someone who had worked in human resources-related jobs before, but was later in life and basically transferred that into a company and worked very hard in terms of developing it, but now is able to call herself a rug designer. Another example would be someone I met who was a photographer. And again, she decided to take this up later in life based upon some talents that she had as a young woman. Took it up later in life and then started teaching people in her community how to become photographers, both people that wanted to do it, more for fun, but also people that wanted to do it professionally.
Okay, but
yes.
Let me interrupt you for a second, Sandra. So this person, she was able to do a lot of things in her community, as you said, but you have to reach out. There must be a special way to make contact with people in your community because, let's think about this for a second. If you go to, make a cold call, people don't listen to you. They hang up on you. And if you tell them that there's any money involved, they get very frustrated and they say, listen, I'm constantly, people are calling me and trying to raise money. And, so what was it about her approach?
Now, which person are you talking about? The photographer or the other one?
No, the photographer.
The photographer? Okay. So in this case, this woman's photography for events in her community, including everything from dinner parties to charity events, she started to get well known in the community as like the photographer who took the pictures of people that attended events. And then she would hand out her card, and she would say that she would do other types of things, whether it be weddings or taking pictures of your family. She really worked hard at it. And the other thing that she did, which is very effective for people in building a business that's based on a creative idea, certainly are the newsletters. So you can go to Constant Contact online, and you can develop a newsletter and use all your creativity to send it out to people. And that's one of the things that I actually did when I went from my executive search business to my executive coaching and career coaching business. I did it through developing a newsletter, and I would write an interesting, newsletter every maybe 2 a month, 2 to 3 a month. You don't want to bombard people with newsletters through email anymore, but make them interesting, make them useful, recommend some books they should read, whatever, and then put a video into it. There are a lot of creative things that you can do now. You can do videos on YouTube. If you're really good at public speaking and describing your idea, and you don't want to do the cold calling like you said, record a video on YouTube and then start putting it into your newsletter on Constant Contact. Send it out to your LinkedIn connections. Now, when you do a newsletter, you want to send it to people ideally that you know, and then they will recommend it to other people. So it's really word-of-mouth marketing with people that you know.
There you go. Now, interestingly enough, sometimes people with great educations, the people who go for the MBAs or PhDs or something, have a harder time than the people who just even graduated high school. And it's because of the whole notion that somebody with just a certain kind of personality could be an entrepreneur. Do you agree that anybody who has great ideas and has a passion for what they want to do can be successful, or do they have to have serious education? Oh,
that's a good question. It actually, in the entrepreneurial space, education is not necessarily an important is not the most important factor. As we've seen, some of the most successful entrepreneurial type people who have developed incredible businesses haven't even graduated from college. So that is not a necessity. What's more a necessity for an entrepreneur is having an entrepreneurial outlook and personality type. It helps to be spontaneous, a little bit less structured. So as you pointed out, for some of those MBAs or PhDs who require more structure, they are going to have a harder time in the entrepreneurial space. But there are some MBAs like myself who are P on Myers Briggs, which means perceiver. We're more spontaneous and not structured. And so for us, there's still, the option of an entrepreneurial type business. I think for the people that are J on Myers Briggs, which means judging, it's often you can do a lot of things, but I think my J clients tend to gravitate to either, let's say, consulting. They can still have their own company, but they might need a little bit more structure, one-on-one type work, and they also thrive in big companies because of the structure.
Yeah. Sandra, I watched yesterday, and I don't want to ask who you're going to vote for. This is not about that. But I watched the debates yesterday, and Mrs. Clinton talked about people getting, before they get their jobs, they get a certain kind of education as to learn certain skills. Okay, that was the way it was done many, many, many years ago, decades ago, where, and it's still done, in fact, in Europe, where you just go to a company and you try to learn a skill. Okay, a learning skill. So what do you think about that? Do you think that kids should graduate high school, go straight to college, go for their MBA or a master's degree or a PhD, or before they actually go to college, should they have something that teaches them a skill?
Well, it's a good question. I think that each person is unique, and there's not one straight answer here. But those assessment tests, I think, will help guide people, especially if they're at that stage of life. But one thing that I will say is I believe that going forward, education will be a lifelong experience, okay? Mm-hmm. So for those, not everyone goes to college, but for those that do go to college, I believe the nature of college may change. It may not be 4 years, physically at a university. They may change that over time. And I think what we're going to also find, we're finding now that a lot of people get some work experience, certainly before they go on to get their graduate degree. Most people that get an MBA have 3 years of work experience. So you don't want to just get all your education. You do want to have some real-world experience to make sure that you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. And when you're young, your path may change, your preferences may change. And again, I think that learning will become a lifelong process because the nature of technology changes. So I learn new technologies. I learn new software programs. All of us are going to have to be doing that, learning online. And even LinkedIn has gotten into that business now. Yeah. They bought a company where you can actually take some classes online. So I always say to people, mid-career, late career, whatever level of career you are, go out there and take some online learning classes. Go to your university's MBA, programs, and there's executive education classes in your community. Mm-hmm. You need to learn some new skills, whether it be technology, new industries, new things, new ways of being, how to give a speech, whatever it may be. I think this educational process will become a lifelong process for people. And the other point I would just make on that is companies need to invest in training. Okay, there were some cutbacks during the economic crisis of 2008, but there's so much wonderful talent out there that's not employed right now. The unemployment rate, I believe, is much higher because so many people have dropped out of the job market, and that really concerns me, or they're working for a part-time job and want a full-time job. Right. So what you need to do is to have the companies also, and I say this to my CEOs that I talk with in the corporate world, I say to them, you need to have training at your companies because there's so much great talent out there, and continue to hire those baby boomers, the older people, because they also are amazing, and you need to train them in terms of a new skill set. So I hope the companies are listening too.
Well, that leads me to that question about your favorite CEOs who are creating a bright future. Do you want to mention a couple?
Sure, I'd be happy to. There's a couple of themes that I point to in my video, on my DVD about new trends in business. And so the three themes I talk about are conscious capitalism is number one. And conscious capitalism is actually something that John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, has talked a lot about. He even wrote a book on it. So conscious capitalism is looking at business in a slightly different way, and it refers to businesses that serve not just the interests of shareholders, but they serve the interests of all the major stakeholders, ranging from customers to employees to investors to suppliers, communities, and even the environment. So for John Mackey at Whole Foods, the business is not just about making money, but it's also about improving the lives of other people, looking broadly at things. And I really like his book on that topic. The other CEO that I really admire is Paul Polman, the CEO of Unilever. Now, Unilever owns a lot of great products that you use in your home, ranging from Lipton tea to Dove soap, Tresemme hairspray, what have you. They own hundreds of brands. And Paul Polman is the leader on sustainability. Right. So sustainability is a really important topic in the 21st century because sustainability means to endure. So companies need to endure through a long period of time. It used to be called corporate social responsibility. Now companies are putting sustainability into their business model. Mm-hmm. And if you want to learn more about that topic, you can go to unilever.com, their website. Mm-hmm. But again, Paul Polman, he travels around the world. He's a wonderful man. And he talks a lot about the importance of, again, not just making money, but also improving the lives of people. But they do it and are profitable. And it's so impressive to see CEOs who are sensitive about people and communities and are showing other CEOs this is the future of business.
Wow. So what do you think about core values? What do they mean to you when you talk to your clients? Do you discuss the core values, what their core values are?
Well, sure. You have to. Now, that's probably more falls into the category of life coaching, but it can obviously touch into the areas of career and executive coaching as well. My whole goal is to help people become more comfortable with who they are. So my approach to coaching, whether it be executive, career, or life coaching, is I want to understand who you are, what your personality type is, what motivates you, and what your core values are. So, we can give a questionnaire and ask people what their values may be, and each person is unique, as I stated before. So in coaching, my philosophy is not that there's a problem that I need to fix. My philosophy is that you are a unique person, and I want to make you more comfortable with who you are, communicate better, fit your values, and be able to communicate that to other people.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be a kind of different question. How much do you have to use in your discussions with your clients a little humor? A lot of the things that you're talking about are pretty serious stuff. But sometimes people need to have a little space. They need to need to laugh, because when you're transitioning from one company to another, or you lost your job, or you're, something's just not working in your business, and you have to go bankrupt, God forbid. But humor. So how do you use humor in your business?
Well, my personality type is such that I like to make people smile, and I like to make people feel comfortable. So humor can definitely help. And being able to see that lighter side of life, and being able to prioritize things in a way that is realistic, and also to not be too hard on yourself. One of the things that is helpful for people is to go out and take some time to do some volunteer work or do some fun things, develop a hobby, even if they're in between jobs. So as you point out, it's not just work, because that can, put you into a stressful mindset. Mm-hmm. But you need to take some time to relax and laugh. And, I'll tell you a funny story.
Sure.
I've seen people between positions go and be an extra in a movie, or a background actor in a movie, do something totally out of character. And sometimes, it's traveling to a new destination with your family. Mm-hmm. Doing something totally different and out of character sometimes gives you a new perspective on life.
Right.
And the other thing that can be helpful to people is doing something spiritual. Like, as an example, Deepak Chopra is a man that I've met who I really admire, and I went out to California to attend his seminar on synchronicity. And it was really interesting to meet him and to hear about his view of life and health and spiritual approach to the world. And once again, life is not something to be controlled. It's something to be experienced. And when you start to see that there are different ways to view the world, sometimes it leads you on a new path or a new journey that's a better fit for you. And I think that's really helpful.
So you think that you shouldn't take yourself too seriously, because if you do, you're going to be under a lot of stress. But if you kind of mix your career path and various things that you do, you need to kind of bring something special into your life. Isn't that true now, Sandra? Because that's what I heard you say.
Yes, although, keep in mind, I'm dealing with a client base that's pretty serious to begin with. So,
okay.
So, the idea is, you want to be structured in your job search if you're going through that, or if you're making a change in your career. But you also want to make sure that you do have time for friends and family, and that you do have hobbies that you enjoy, because socializing is really important to maintaining a healthy mindset. Or maybe for some people, it's doing exercise. My view is there are people that are very physically active people, and then there are some people that are more mentally active.
Mm-hmm.
So they might not be as interested in sports, but they may have a creative project that they enjoy doing, or maybe they want to write a book, do something that may start as a hobby, and it can actually develop your professional brand. Once you write a book or do a DVD like I'm doing, you then have something to sell or to market, or an expertise to hand out at your next speaking engagement. So try and find what works for you. I actually started to write a book to begin with.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Tell me about the book, and tell me what you also have available so people can learn so much from you, because you're like a glut of information. So
thank you.
What are you doing now? Are you writing?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I started to write the book on career navigation, and what I realized was I was doing all of these videos for a variety of different organizations. I got discovered at Davos and did some videos for them, and Cannes Lions, which is the advertising community, and did some creative videos there. And I realized that instead of writing a book, I'm better at speaking. And so I decided to do the DVD instead of the book. Mm-hmm. So again, it'll be available as a video on demand, because that's what a lot of people buy now. Mm-hmm. But it'll be on Amazon. So whether it's a book or a video or whatever you think is right for you, there are now ways that you can do that, and you can get that out there. And I'm going to be launching a series of videos and DVDs on Amazon.com. The first one is about career navigation. The second one actually is going to be about the highly sensitive leaders for the 21st century. And my other theme, as I mentioned, the yin and yang of leadership. But I want to expand my topics, much like Deepak Chopra has done. He's done videos and books on a variety of topics. My coaching is very broad, and I'm happy to work with people at all levels of career. Mm-hmm. So in this particular DVD, I tried to make it appealing to a broad audience. So whether you're coming out of, school, or you're mid-career, or you're an executive, I've got tips for you. So I tried to make it as broad as possible, but with a little bit of an emphasis on more experienced people, and people that may be going through a transition or looking for an encore career, or even considering becoming an entrepreneur.
Well, my guest today has been Sandra Rupp, and she is placed on the Thinkers 50 radar list. Radar list. She's just a marvelous and very exciting person to listen to, because she gives you the hope, and she helps you to kind of dream and make those dreams come true. So, again, I want to say thank you very much to Sandra Rupp for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.